Well, good morning, beautiful souls. It's been a while, but here I am. Just a quick life update. Okay, as you can see from previous videos to now, things have changed. New perspective on my craft room. Things are getting into order. So the chaos is coming to an end. Well, almost coming to an end, but we're getting there. Getting to the point that there can be some sort of normality going on here, not tripping over boxes and things like that. So that's all good. But as you know, I'm constantly thinking of things. And for some reason, watching YouTube, as I do, uh, a lot of things about trigger points or trigger things come up. I see a lot of, oh, there's triggers, there's triggers, there's triggers. Now, okay, I'm going to kind of look at this from a different point of view. And sorry about the light, I just can't get it figured out until my blinds get in. I've got these curtains up and they're not very good, but it serves a purpose for the moment. Now, we keep saying, oh, that triggers me, that triggers me. What is actually a trigger? And I'm not talking about, a cat walked in front of me and 50 years ago I had a bad experience with cats, so it triggers me. I'm talking about if you have those triggers. Now, I'm not a specialist, a doctor, anything like that. I try to look at things from a common sense, awakened point of view. That is that unresolved emotion that we have not been taught to deal with, that we keep using the word trigger. That triggers me. So we go through life with all these triggers that are unresolved or dealing with them. And this is our way of denying it by saying they're triggers. I'm just trying to get this out there. Now, if they were resolved and they were dealt with, and we learned how to deal with stuff like this instead of just using it, sticking a label on it, and saying that's a trigger, so don't say that in front of me. Well, we're going to end up walking around in a society where we're not going to be able to say jack shit, because what I could be saying could trigger somebody. I could say hello, and that could trigger somebody. Are we too quick to label and let that label justify us not dealing with what's really going on inside, or us not dealing with that emotion? Because nowadays we're not taught to deal with it. And it's not a case of suck it up and get on with it. It's a case of learning how to work through it to the point that it can happen again, but it won't be a trigger. Now, I know some people, many, many, many years ago, I got T-boned. I was just driving along and somebody straight out, smacked into the side of me. Now, was I afraid to drive when the first time I got in the car? Yeah, I was. I was terrified because that triggered that emotion of going through all that, which I was thrown in the car the next day and told to drive, or you won't do it again. I had to deal with that. I had to work through that fear, that anxiety. It just wasn't a case of, oh, that triggers me, I'm not going to do it anymore, I'm not going to drive. Because we're turning into that society of everything's a trigger. Now, I know there's things, emotional things, that will trigger someone, say, to overeat because it's a coping mechanism. There we go. Are we using triggers to say, that triggers me, as a coping mechanism, instead of actually dealing with it and putting it to bed? Now, I'm not saying it's easy to deal with, and there's a lot of life circumstances out there that are horrific, and if you can get through them, my heart goes out to you, because some of the things are beyond imaginable. But then there are some people who can get past that, and they come out fighting, and they come out swinging, and they come out, I'm going to change it for the rest of the world type thing. What's the difference between them? Why has somebody taken that path of, I'm not going to let this get me, and others had taken the path of, I'm going to hide behind a label and not deal with it? That's a good question to ask yourself if you have any triggers. Like, oh, I know I have loads of them. Oh, I can make a list as long as your arm. I really can. But I also can identify them. If I know something's going to set me off, I take a step back and go, whoa. Okay, first off, I'm not going to allow it to do that just because of a previous experience or emotion, because now I'm armed with the knowledge that that same thing won't necessarily happen again. And I can't keep running away from things that could possibly happen again. But if I've looked at it and said, okay, I'm not going to let that situation happen again. Now I can look for the flags. I can look for, the things that are going to say, hey, you might be going down that road, and turn it all around. But instead, we just like to, nope, I'm going to hide in the corner here, and that's, sticky note up on the wall, that's a trigger, and do that. Is that a good way to live life? Is that a good way to grow and mature? Or are you going to stay under that umbrella of, that triggers me? Because I know emotions hurt, and I know they can hurt really horribly. Because I have emotions, mine hurt. A lot of times it's my bloody ego getting in the way, which makes it hurt even more. I have to deal with that. But I also make it that I'm aware of that, and that I can go forward and work through it. Ooh, cheers. I brought my coffee with me. That's not an advertisement for Timmy's. Just happens Timmy's have come to the UK. Yay! If you don't know, I'm a Canadian, and oh boy, I miss my Timmy's. So this is as close as I can get is a mug at the moment, unless we drive into the city, and no, I won't do that. Why? Because traffic triggers me. No, I just don't like driving in the city. They're all bonkers. I'm telling you that. Okay, I thought I'd just hop on here, quick life update, see it from a different perspective. I'm going to try and work this lighting out. It's not working well, and figure something out how to do it so that I'm not looking like half of my head. Oh, the wrong half. It's all shiny. I'm not a professional. I'm just someone on here who's getting on here and trying to share some knowledge, some common sense, things like that. I'm not going to have all these fancy things. Someday maybe I'd like to move forward and learn how to really do some editing. I can learn how to speak first. Just have some fun with it. But I think the world needs some common sense at the moment, because it's bewildering to me that all this is going on, and people are not dealt how to deal with their own emotions. Now, I know you've got the highly sensitive people out there. I put my hand up. I'm one of them. We have no choice. We have to deal with those sort of things, or they'll just send us around the bend and really bring us down, which we are needed in this world to help bring the world back up. So keep that in mind also. Okay, my lovelies, you know what I'm going to say, as always. Be kind, be loved.